Whether you're in a new stage of life, empty nester, retiree, or you've just gotten a different job, or maybe you've had a spouse pass away, or you've been divorced, there are times you might feel isolated. Well, today we're going to talk about the things that you can do to stop feeling so isolated. Coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue, where we talk about how to make money, save money, and create a retirement from nothing. Well, recently I did a video on if rural living is for you, and some of the questions that came up were, well, if you move to a new area, how do you keep from feeling isolated? Well, it's really a good question. And there are a lot of times in our lives when we might feel that isolation. When you first retire, all the people you knew at work, all your usual routines, everything's changed. And you can get really isolated. All the people you used to talk to, they're not there. Everyone's busy. And the next thing you know, you're just sitting at home watching TV feeling bad about things. This can happen when you move to a new area as well. I moved to this area about 4 years ago. And it takes a while for you to get to know people, for you to start figuring out where you fit in a new community or a new area. Well, there are several things you can do that can help if you are feeling isolated or if you're going through a period in your life where things have changed a lot. Some of these tips may help you. And the first one is to understand what you can and can't control. You can't control people being busy. You can't control that your life has changed where other people's lives may not have. This happens a lot if you find yourself suddenly single and all your friends were married or are married. You kind of feel like that third wheel and you stop going and doing things with them because it's awkward. And maybe you don't want to go eat by yourself or do things by yourself and you're a bit of at loose ends. Well, you have to understand that you are in complete control of what you can and can't do. And just because things have changed doesn't mean you stop doing everything. You absolutely are in control, and it's not up to other people to come and check on you, to call you, even though a lot of them will, which is really nice, but you're not their responsibility. You are your responsibility. And taking that control means taking responsibility for how you feel. Taking responsibility to reach out to people. There are some of us, especially those of us who are introverted, where that is not the easiest thing in the world. You know, when things have happened, you just don't want to bother people, honestly. And that's a lot of us. You don't want to bother your kids. You don't want to bother people who are busy. But it's your responsibility to reach out. It is about maintaining those relationships that are important to you. And it doesn't matter if you're just talking to people via Zoom from your home or you're actually going out and meeting friends for lunch. You be the initiator. You have the responsibility and the ability to initiate any of those things that will make you feel better. Connections with people require maintenance. And when those connections change or you lose some connections and maybe you're in a new area, when you get out and you make new connections or you want to stay in contact with some of those old connections, it requires maintenance. Even if it's just a text, even if it's a handwritten birthday card, they require maintenance. You can't expect people to be there for you if you never contact them, if you never reach out to them. If you are never the initiator, they'll forget you. They easily will, not necessarily on purpose, but just because you're not present in their mind. So you be that initiator, even if it's just a text to say, hey, I was thinking about you today, even if it's one little thing. Keeping connections and maintaining those connections is very, very important. One of the absolute best ways to get out and take care of yourself and stop feeling isolated is to do things you enjoy. It's interesting that sometimes it's almost like we forget we have the ability to go out and do something we enjoy. One of the early things I did when I first moved to this area was going and taking a traditional Native American cooking class. I thought it'd be fun. You know, I went down to the Pueblo. They had the traditional Orno. And the only reason I did it is because I thought it would be fun. And it is amazing how much that sort of thing can really lift your spirits. You know, it's interesting. I have a writer friend in Amarillo, and she was going through a little time that was just kind of tough, and things were just ugh. And I was planning a trip to Santa Fe. I wanted to make some traditional adobe I do all kinds of weird things, by the way, but I wanted to make these traditional adobe blocks. They were doing that right there in Santa Fe. And I was talking to her about, hey, I'm going to take this trip to Santa Fe. And she's like, oh, that would be so nice. And I'm like, you know what? You just need to come with. And she did. She drove up, and we both drove down together. And we had the best time in Santa Fe. And it was nothing more than spending time with someone else that just made it so much more fun. I mean, I absolutely would have gone by myself too, and it would have been fun. But we went to the museum, we went to the governor's palace. We did all that fun stuff together. And it was a huge mood lifter for both of us. For both of us. We'd both been working a lot. It was just a huge mood lifter. And so there are those sorts of things that you can go and do. And don't be afraid to invite somebody along. A friend, a family member, anybody. Say, you know what, let's just run and do this. This will be fun. And it was. And that's true of almost anything. If there's something you love to do, if you love to cook, invite someone over to cook with you. If you love to fish, I love to fish. And you know, interestingly enough, one of the most irritating things for me is when there's a whole lake, right? And I go to fish, and there'll be one person show up at the lake, and they sit right here. And I'm like, there's a whole lake. But inevitably, we start to talk about fishing flies. We compare what they have, what I have, what's working. And the next thing you know, you're having this great conversation with someone you absolutely don't know. And it's because you both enjoy the same thing. That is what makes a great mood lifter. And one of the weird things about feeling isolated is that you start feeling down on yourself and you become more isolated. So going out and doing something, anything, go for a walk in the park, take your dog, talk to someone else who has a dog, you know, go to the local swimming pool and swim some laps, talk to people at your local gym, call people on the phone. If you're homebound for some reason, either you've had a medical issue or you just can't leave your house for right now for whatever reason, call people up. Talk to them for a while. You can always reach out, but it's up to you to do that. In the end, feeling isolated is something you can do something about. And the sooner you start taking steps to get out of that isolated mindset, the quicker your mood will lift, you'll feel like doing more things, and you'll feel less and less isolated. But you have to take those first steps. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please click subscribe, and I'll see you next time.